Hey guys, in this video I'm gonna break down today's trade on Nasdaq. I'm gonna show you guys how I built my confidence around Nasdaq, the reason why I was biased with the bearish market, with the market being bearish today, and I'm gonna show you guys how I adapt with the market as the market evolves right during the day. So first and foremost, this was the first setup that I sent. I sent a higher time frame setup where I was anticipating price. I was anticipating price to go into imbalance. So I was anticipating price to go into this 4-hour imbalance, right, and then push to the downside, targeting this low down here, or price pushing all the way up here, right? So hence I highlighted these 2 arrows: price reacting off this imbalance or price acting off this imbalance. I always have two possibilities, but those possibilities obviously they have the same bias, which is the market's pushing to the downside, right? So here we see price pushing to the pushing into the 4-hour balance, right? This was the first setup on a higher time frame. And then we had price. Then I sent also this, right? I send this lower time frame perspective. So I always send both the higher time frame and the lower time frame so that I can give you guys a clear picture and understand, right? So for those people that haven't checked out the video in the free course on the YouTube channel where I break down market structure and how you can use the higher time frame and the lower time frame to build confluence, make sure you do watch it. So in this case, I was in the lower time frame, anticipating price to form some form of manipulation, the London session, and then eventually push to the downside, right? Eventually push to the downside. So I was expecting price to probably react off the supply zone and then push down, or react off the supply zone and then push down, right? So as time went by, price obviously evolved, right? It took out this zone right here, took out the Asian high, and I was like, okay, at this point we can expect price to come here and form a lower time frame confirmation setup where price comes, takes out this low, and then we expect a pullback into the swing that will form and then jump on that confirmation entry, right? So I was expecting this type of confirmation entry to form for us to jump on the swing to the downside, targeting this Asian low liquidity down here, right? So from there we see price evolving where we didn't get the confirmation setup and the setup was invalidated and price was heading towards this imbalance right here, right? So this is price being in confluence with the higher time frame where I highlighted that I'm looking at price going into the 4-hour imbalance, right? So you have to learn how to adapt to the market and not force the market what you want it to do. Hence, you have to wait for it to give you confirmations. You have to wait for it to give you confirmations, and it expects the agenda that it has, which is take out certain liquidity points. So at this point, I was still quite biased because price would have formed liquidity here and also formed Asian low liquidity that wasn't wiped out, together with yesterday's Asian low liquidity that was wiped out. So most of you asked me saying, but how did you know, or how were you certain that the market is going to push down? Because of these two, right? I believe after backtesting for so many times on the charts, I realized that price always takes out the Asian low liquidity. If it doesn't take out it today, it will eventually come back for the Asian low liquidity. So price was eventually coming back for this Asian low liquidity that I was looking out for, right? So at this point, we saw price react off this imbalance, and I was like, I'm anticipating price to push to the upside, get into the supply zone, and then push down, right? So this is me adapting to the market one more time. Price left an order block right here, expecting price to come, respect this block, go up there, and then eventually push during the New York session, because this was all during London. As you can see, it says London manipulation that we have, right? So what happens that price definitely respect us, push a bit to the upside, right? Push a bit to the upside, and I was running with the $1,200 profit. Obviously, I set my limit orders up there, anticipating price to push to the downside, right? Price to come and tag into my limit orders and then push to the downside. And then from there, we see price break structure here after pushing to this low, to this high, right? Break structure here, and then we had a bit of a consolidation during this break session, right? Between London for the open of New York and the London kill zone, right? We had this break right here, and then New York came in, pushed to the downside, anticipating price to come into the supply zone and then push, right? So this was the setup of the day. The setup was the day that now is New York. I'm anticipating price to come for an OTE, right? To be traced within the supply zone and then push to the downside. And what happened today is price didn't tag me out by a few pips, because this was the imbalance that I spotted on like the 15 minutes. I think I spotted this imbalance on the 15 minutes, right? So I was expecting price to come and tag me and then push to the downside. And then from there, price missed me by a few pips, then it just continued to push to the downside, right? Price just continued to the downside all the way, and this is quite irritating. And we missed the trade for the day. But if you took the risk of entering this setup, even though it was going to be out of the system that we have, because we're supposed to respect imbalances as we know the system for us to find entries, and price didn't do that today, right? So we're gonna have some days where price is gonna do this, right? Where price is not gonna respect our imbalance and just push down, right? But we always have to stick to the system, because sticking to the system gives us consistency. So I eventually also adapted to the market as I saw price heading towards this demand zone, and I was like, okay, now we should be able to see price retrace within the supply zone and then push to the downside, filling up this gap that was left, right? So from there, price still didn't fill up the gap, pushed all the way to the downside, and yeah, it filled up this gap right here. Though I didn't take this trade. If you took this trade, you probably ended up in a lot of profits, because the market went all the way to the downside, and then it just pushed all the way to the downside. So the current situation with the market is this right now. As you can see, price pushed to the downside all the way. We had the New York session kicked in. It's not highlighted at this point. Yeah, so we had New York session kicked in, pushing to the downside all the way, and this is the trade that I entered at the end of the day. Took a few pips, so I didn't send it on the group. Yeah, so this is a trade that I took. Price came back into this block, respected the block with the downside, taking out this liquidity. So this is the bias that I built on the last trade, right? So this is today's breakdown. As you can see, one lesson that you can pick up from today's breakdown is that price targeted Asian low liquidity. And for those people that don't know how the Asian low liquidity strategy works, there's a video that I just posted on the Asian low and Asian high liquidity, price targeting these levels of liquidity to fill up and complete its daily buyers, right? So make sure you do watch that video. Make sure you watch the pre-course if you haven't watched the pre-course, and don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video. All right, guys, see you in the next video.